This is like this is a real car. Like, I liked the Fiat 500e because it was funny and cute and like a novelty, but this is like a real car. Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt.
And my name is Paulo, and we just spent a week with Volvo's EX30.
It is their smallest and most electric, and actually their fastest car that they've ever made. And I'm gonna walk you around everything that you need to know about this little thing.
Yeah, and then we're gonna get behind the wheel and talk about some of our standouts for the week.
Let's do it. And as you guys will be familiar, we're going to start things off zoomed in a little bit on some of the funky little odds and ends. Now, originally the plan was to make this thing in China, but due to tariff situations, they've had to move production to Belgium. So, where it was going to be completely tariffed out of existence, now it's only kind of tariffed out of existence, but we'll get to that when we talk about price. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the door. Now, usually we don't talk about the door in too much detail, but the thing is, there's nothing going on here. You get this door handle, your door release, you get this handle, but there's nothing else in here. There's no window switches, there's no mirror controls, there's not even a speaker in this door here. Same thing for the other side. But you do get this little EX30 brushed aluminum Easter egg on the inside of the dash. So then you might be asking yourself, okay, well, where's the speakers? If they're not in the doors, they're not in the ceiling, they must be here. This is your Harman Kardon soundbar across basically the entire width of the dash. And recycled materials are a theme in this car. This woven material that you see on your door card and across your dash is of course recycled. And if you look down below, it's not just a normal scratchy black plastic down here. You can see that this has a texture to it because this too has been recycled. And there's not a lot going on in the back seats either, but there is this funky little Easter egg. You remove this little tray that you can store stuff with down here, and you've got a little clip art of an animated moose and a little landscape. It's very Swedish indeed. And that moose has a friend, actually. Underneath your frunk, the cover here, has another little moose. And it also has a little EX30. Not to scale. But then a couple things I don't like as much. Now, like I said, there's no window switches over here, but they're here in your center console. That in and of itself isn't that weird. That's going on in the Ioniq 6 as well. But it's got the irritating ID buzz and ID4 thing going on where you only have two window switches, and if you want to adjust the rear windows, you have to select rear first, and then you can adjust them. And especially in bright midday sunlight, I've had to wait for the sun to kind of go down here so I can show you this, but in bright midday sunlight, it's really difficult to tell whether or not you've selected rear. Another thing I don't love is you've got the silly return to center turn signals that we've seen in things like the GR86 and some old BMWs. I really thought we had gotten past this, but they're here in the EX30. And another thing I'm a little irritated by is the key situation. Now, you've got an NFC card, that's in and of itself is fine, but they also give you this fob, but there's not a single button on here. And the proximity for the fob doesn't always work. I walked up to this thing a couple times and couldn't get the door open. Also, it's a little bit irritating because you also have sit to start. You don't have an actual start button on your interior here. So when you get to where you're going, you throw the car in park and then you just open the door and get out. But then this stays active. So whatever music you were listening to stays on until you get an indiscriminate amount or distance away from the car, and then it'll lock itself. Still unlocked, and there it goes. This is also a little bit annoying because I can't just leave the car unlocked. So if it's sitting in my driveway and I want to go get something from it, I have to make sure that I have the key on me. Keys, things we didn't need reinvented. Another thing we don't have, volume knob. I mean, this is volume here, and then go here and here. So everything is in the screen, which is really annoying because when you go into here, you've got your driver alert. So it's watching your eyeballs right here and is really, really sensitive. So if you have your eyes off the road for even 3 seconds, it's gonna yell at you, which means anytime you have to interact with this, which is what you have to interact with anytime you wanna do anything, it's gonna yell at you. And it defaults to turning itself on every time you turn the car on. So you have to get into the habit of going here to this little car icon and then turning off your driver alert. But at least you have YouTube, so you can watch Downshift videos while you're charging. Just debuted the new Golf R review with our friends Topher Drives and the Topher. Make sure you check that out. That's pretty cool. I do like this if you're gonna be stuck somewhere charging. It's nice to be able to watch stuff. And this is your cup holder situation. Your center console doesn't actually open because it's just kind of hiding this slide out tray for your cups. Now, to be fair, this is pretty solid, but you can remove this so you can have it be just a cubby, or just a cubby with a single cup holder, or you can just have it be a single cup holder. But generally I leave this thing fully extended, which means when I have my big water bottle here, it's a little harder to get to this stuff over here if I need to turn off the, I don't know, driver alert eyeball watcher. But the other thing that's interesting here is we've got a little decal in here. It says covered coffee lids only. Presumably this is so it's easier to clean things. Now when I've got my bottle here in this first one, it sits nice and flat and flush, but with this one, you can see there's a little fang here that kind of juts up. So anything that I have here kind of rests forward a little bit because it's resting on that fang, not totally flush. But in your car menu, you do have this ambiance, which has like 6 or 7 or 8 different moods that ties into your ambient lighting and your climate controls and also your speakers, depending on what you want to see. You've got forest bath, archipelago, I don't know how to pronounce it, midsummer, which it very much is. Those dandelions look like they're on fire. We've got Nordic twilight with this going on. You sound like it's like a club. Kind of weird, but it is a vibe indeed. And then Northern Light, which is very mystical. If you want to adjust your temperature, you have to tap on the temp itself and then you can adjust it. And just like the XC90 that we were just in, the temperature only adjusts in even numbers in 2s. But if you want more controls, you go to your little fan menu here, and then you can see that you can go into an air quality reading. And this is actually kind of nice. We've had a lot of smoke from the Canadian wildfires coming into Milwaukee lately, so it's really nice to keep track of just how much soot I'm inhaling. And there's a little button in the screen here for your glove box, which is in the middle, because that makes it easier when they go to sell something that's right-hand drive. Put everything in the middle and everything in the screen, then you don't have to change anything when you sell it to different markets. But with all those little odds and ends covered, let's zoom back out and talk about what this is and what it competes against. Now, this is Volvo's tiny electric. They call it a crossover. Kind of has more hatch dimensions. It's actually technically shorter than the Golf R that we just had, but this is their first ever EX30. And to be honest, when they first debuted this, I wanted it so bad, and it doesn't really have many competitors in the wild right now. But when it comes to motors and performance, now there is no single motor rear wheel drive that you can get in the States. That would be about 270-ish horsepower. What we get here in the States is the dual motor only. You get a smaller motor in the front and a larger one in the back to kind of synthesize all-wheel drive, you can think of it. And it makes 422 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. And it does 0 to 60 in the low 3 seconds. This thing is freaking quick. It is actually the quickest Volvo that's ever been made, and which is just wild to think that their smallest and entry-level EV SUV is the quickest Volvo that's ever graced the pavement. But it is. But we'll come back to the charge port, which is on the rear driver's side of the car, to talk about the battery and the range. Now, this EX30 is built on the SEA2 platform from Geely. This is for small platform cars. And underneath the skin, you've got a 69 kilowatt hour battery. 62 of that is usable, and that means it's good for 253 miles, according to Volvo. We did our Lakeshore Loop fuel economy test. It came back with 24.3 kilowatt hours per 100 miles, which is a silly way to do that metric. Everyone else does miles per kilowatt hour, but the conversion then is 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour, which is bang on the 254 miles that they estimate. This thing also has a heat pump, so it'll be a little bit more efficient in cold or inclement weather, and it's pretty good. But then when it comes to charging, now this car will precondition the battery if you use Google navigation to set a destination charger. It'll charge up to 153 kilowatts, but at home on my level 2, it'll do 11 kilowatts, and it'll charge itself in about 8 hours, which is actually pretty quick, and that's because, well, the battery's not that big. EX30, it doesn't have any drive modes, so I guess we'll just mash it. Oh, there it goes. It takes a second to roll on power. It's not like the super jarring, holy crap, we're in an EV kind of sensation. It does roll on power a little bit. Now that is going to save you tires in the long run. But the thing that stands out is it is plenty fast. This is the fastest thing Volvo's ever made. And it feels that way. It does feel plenty quick. I would not go so far as to call it sporty though. There's a difference between quick and fast and sporty. This has a lot of pace in it. It has a lot of power in it. But the steering is kind of light, kind of vague, not really feeling a whole lot. And the suspension is certainly geared more towards being like a family, small EV hatchback crossover thing. So we're in this corner here. Not really, I'm just adding different amounts of steering. But when I come out, I've got plenty of power. So I think it could use a little bit more tire, could use a little bit stiffer suspension, but the truth is I don't actually want that. Like if I was looking to buy something like this, I wouldn't want it to be all like stiff and aggressive and sporty. Maybe like a Polestar engineered version of this, that could be fine. But just your basic EX30 with the dual motor, I think this is damped how it's supposed to be. It definitely suits the personality of the car. The ride itself is decent. It's not incredible, it's not a super sophisticated air suspension, but it's certainly not going to beat you up either. It's actually, there's not any harsh bumps really. It actually does a pretty good job soaking things up. There's just a little bit extra movement going on. But it does roll on power pretty easily and does feel nice and refined. It does feel like a human being has sat in this chair and thought, okay, let's make this drivable and like comfortable. And it seems to have achieved that. Now, one thing that I like is I can turn off the one pedal drive. I can turn it on if I want to, but with it off, this thing just coasts for days. And I don't know why, but I just kind of like that in EVs. I like to not have anything more than just the tire friction slowing me down. So I like that. But ultimately, the thing that I like most about it is it's fun. It's small, it's zippy, it's easy to maneuver around town. It looks cool, and I don't know, I just have a little smile on my face when I drive it. So sometimes that's really all it takes. And when it comes to styling, I love the look of this thing. Our tester here is draped in moss yellow, which is the most vibrant yellow, kind of green, but mostly yellow color that I've ever seen. You do have your faux grille up front, and you've got your Thor's Hammer LED headlights. You've got bezel-less wing mirrors around the side that are finished in black. You've got a black roof, kind of two-tone thing going on. And down below, you've got 19-inch aero wheels that totally fit the personality of the car. From the profile, it's small. It's about 2 inches shorter than the Golf R that we had last week, as I mentioned. But the weird thing is, this being an EV, it has actual door handles, so you can make it work with actual door handles, everyone else. And then around the back, the taillights are very Volvo, but in a very modern way. But I just have to say, overarching thoughts on the styling, in typical Volvo fashion, they just didn't miss. They don't miss. And they haven't missed here in the EX30. This looks great. And as we talk about storage capacity, it does have a frunk. It's pretty small, probably just reserved for portable charging cables, but you do have that little detail that we talked about earlier. But around the back is where you're gonna get your conventional trunk. There's a small hidden black button there for your powered tailgate. You do have a powered tailgate, and I do think that's nice to see on something in this class. You've also got a single button for close, no separate button for close and lock, but hey, I'm just glad that it's powered. The space that you're looking at is 12.4 cubic feet. It is a reasonable size. You've got some pockets on either side of the floor, and there's a little bit of storage underneath the floor. You can fold the rear seats, but you gotta reach right up over here, and then with those seats down, you're looking at 27 cubic feet of space. It's not huge, but that's why Volvo includes this handy little will it fit chart to make sure that you know a stroller can fit, and a little orchid or a plant, and a lamp and some golf clubs, and it gives you dimensions up here too, which is just kinda cool. Nice little touch here in the cargo area of the EX30. And I do think it would be funny to see one of these towing, but it can tow up to 2,000 pounds. But we'll move up the cabin to the rear seats. Not expecting it to be 90 degrees, and it's not. No shade, again, nothing going on in the door here. No window switches, no locks, no speakers, nothing like that. We do get a tiny little pocket here for storage, and there is some clever storage going on in here, but you see we do have the wool interior, which is very, very nice. I love this gray or kind of off-white interior mixed with our moss yellow. It's a little bit tricky for myself to get in at 6'1", but you can see here, I actually have a tiny bit of room. I've got an inch of room maybe in front of my knees. We've got a map pocket with a smaller one for your phone. And we've got this huge panoramic roof that goes the entire length of the roof. Now the thing about this is it looks like there's no shade, and there isn't. But then I would think, okay, well maybe it's one of those electrochromic frosting ones. Also not the case. If you want a shade for your sunroof, it's gonna be like $190. It's an add-on accessory from the dealer. kind of whack, but I guess that's what it is. But you look down here, you don't have any vents or anything, you don't have any heated seats. I don't really expect that, but you do have a tiny little storage cubby right there. We talked about the removable moose cubby right there, and you do have your window controls along with some USB-Cs. So there's a couple things here, but we are missing a center armrest and cup holders. There's really no cup holders over there in your doors, and so I guess whatever you're gonna fit is gonna go down there. But overall, the space is adequate, at least for short trips, for 6-footers. Then we'll step up to the front seats. Again, pretty nice Scandinavian feeling wool interior with the Swedish flag. Very, very cool. A little bit of contrasted detailing here with your seats that kind of ties in with the moss yellow exterior. You do have 3-level heated seats here, no cooled seats, but you do have a heated steering wheel, which is fairly nice. And the seating position certainly fits the car. I'm sitting high up enough to actually be able to see stuff, but not too high as to feel weird or disconnected from the car. Now, when we talk about the overarching cabin experience, as you can see, minimalism is the theme of the day here. There's no buttons really of any kind in this thing. There's a couple buttons on the steering wheel, but other than that, everything is run through your center screen, which is a pro and a con. Design-wise, it certainly cleans up the cabin, but function-wise is a little bit something to be desired. It does feel fairly Tesla in here with the simple fact that you don't have a gauge cluster or a head-up display, but you do have this big screen in the center. But you do have a surprising amount of storage going on. Down here in your center console area, that floor opens up to reveal another tiered storage. You've got 2 wireless chargers down there. We saw that center glove box area, and the center console, while it doesn't open, does have those cup holders that come out. And this little pass-through from the rear goes all the way up towards the front. And the door storage actually isn't too bad in the front. It's a little bit more pinched in the rear, but overall storage actually isn't too bad. And it does feel fairly well put together, especially considering that everything, well, not everything, but for the most part, is recycled material in here. And when it comes to tech, we've already touched on a little bit of this. We're not gonna have a head-up display. We're not gonna have an instrument cluster. I would like one of those, doesn't have to be necessarily both, but I guess I would prefer a cluster if I had to choose. But over here, everything is run in your center screen here. It's running Android Automotive software, it's got Google built in, you've got wireless Apple CarPlay, but not Android Auto, which is weird. It kind of makes you log into the system if you've got an Android. So Apple users rejoice. Android, sorry about it. But you throw it into reverse, and you've got pretty decent 360 cameras. It's a smaller kind of bird's eye view, but you do have a forward-facing camera when you shift into drive and a reverse in park. And you do have the 2 wireless chargers down here and some of the other odds and ends that we talked about earlier. But then over here, your driver assistance suite, it's pretty average, I guess I would say. It's not necessarily anything to write home about. And the eyeball watcher, as we discussed earlier, is kind of a pain. So just make sure you get in the habit of turning that off. And the last thing that we'll talk about before we get back with Paulo is the price. Now, the EX30 starts at $46,195. The Ultra trim starts at $47,895, and as tested with destination, we're testing at $48,395. Now, this was supposed to be the $35,000 car when Volvo first teased it a year or however long ago it was. But with tariffs and supply chains and tariffs again, well, that's why it's closer to $50,000 than $35,000, which does kind of ruin the overall taste of the car a little bit. But I still kind of like this thing. There's a little soft spot in my heart. So let's get with Paulo and talk about some of the pros and cons. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. Sound like Santa's reindeer in here.
I know.
Thank you for bringing your blender bottle.
Blender bottle.
There's a 14-year-old in M5.
Jealousy.
Oh! World's fastest Volvo. Fastest Volvo in history.
This thing rips.
It kind of does rip.
Unconventionally though, because it almost feels like you're in boost. The way it delivers power.
Yeah, the way that the power is mapped, since this doesn't have a sport mode, it doesn't have any drive modes of any kind. It doesn't say like sport or performance or anything on it. It doesn't say Pulsar engineered on it. They've had to like map throttle input to where it's like it gradually pulls you away, doesn't snap your neck.
Yep.
So it kind of feels like turbo lag. Gets you going and then it gives you all the power.
Yeah.
is very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting power delivery.
Okay, why don't we cover pros and cons because we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, no, but that certainly
a lot to talk about in a little car.
That certainly is one of my favorite things that I experienced this week with it is the power. That was really great. Some of the other things that I really like, these are just small things I'm going to quickly go over. I love the square steering wheel, big fan. I know that's controversial.
Squircle.
The center glove box, I think, is a good design choice.
Yeah.
And obviously that saves some costs.
It's probably easier to store stuff in here too now. It's closer to you, you'd actually like reach there.
Right, like even from like a usability perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, overall storage, I've been pretty impressed with this thing in terms of like the cabin storage.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of customization you can kind of do with like the cup holders. You can pull them back, you can push them back. There's more storage down here where the phone wireless chargers are. There's moose.
Don't forget the moose.
You can't forget the moose.
Shout out Monty or whatever his name is. Melvin.
You have like the dimensions of the trunk actually on the trunk, which is really nice to give you a good sense of like what you can fit back there. You have different levels for your trunk floor, which is really nice. You can make it flat. You can lower it to try and get some more stuff in there. So those are just like some small things that I really liked. And then
the overall package, just on the trunk space.
Yeah.
Overall packaging and space. Mm-hmm. This is 2 inches shorter than a Golf R that we were just in last week.
It's honestly insane to think about.
And yet I have just as much space in the back seat and probably more trunk space than in the Golf R.
Yeah, and you probably have more headroom in the back, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like
they package this thing well.
When you walk up to this thing, you think that you're going to have like absolutely no room in the back, but you actually have surprisingly really good headroom. You sit pretty close to the floor, so your knees go up. So it's like deceptively more legroom than what you'd think it'd
Hit
be.
this off-roading real quick. We're not in the cross country or whatever the off-road one's called.
Let's see how this does. Oh, nice, dude. Perfect.
I will say, like, it's fast, but it's not a sports car. Like, it does not have the right tire.
No, I'd almost say, like, I think the iX carried its weight a little bit better than
the iX is on like performance tires.
Yeah.
I think if you put a performance tire on this thing, I think it would rip.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah.
Obviously,
Michelin,
suspension and steering are a different thing, but like, yeah.
The other thing I really like is like the recycled materials in here, the different textures that you get. Some of the design elements I really like the door handles are cool.
Yeah. High quality too.
Yeah, I like the way it looks on the interior. The way it functions is a completely different story, and I think that's a good time that I'm going to pivot.
Here we go. Strap in.
The minimalistic design just is not conducive to a good experience behind the wheel.
It is not.
What I mean by that is they basically eliminated like every single button that I'd want to leverage. You don't have a start-stop button. You don't have a volume knob.
You don't have climate controls.
You don't have climate controls. Everything is in the screen, and Volvo obviously is reputable. They're reputable for being a really safe car, and they have a lot of safety features in here. But I think what takes away from that, from an experience, is how much stuff they've jammed into the screen and actually require you to try and do in the screen.
Yep.
It's a lot more than it would be if you just had buttons. And honestly, I think it makes it more unsafe than if you just had more buttons.
Certainly an argument could be made for that, especially because you don't have a head-up display, you don't have a cluster, everything is in the screen, and like most of the time when you want to get to something that you want to get to, it's 1, 2, maybe 4 taps on the screen. So you've got this driver alert, it's watching your eyeballs from behind the steering wheel. The second that you look off the road, it's yelling at you, but you have to look off the road and work the screen to like do anything.
Yeah.
So it's like counterintuitive to itself.
Exactly.
And it's just, I mean, there's countless little examples that we could do, but like overall the UI with everything being in this screen and the driver alert, you just have to turn it off and it's just cumbersome. It's just cumbersome.
Yeah, and I've seen other videos where they're like, oh, the Google Assist is actually like works pretty well. But
say his name. Let him know.
I've tried it a few times, and I just did it with Matt in here. I tried to change the temperature to 68 degrees, and it'll tell you what it thinks it hears, and it heard me completely correctly, but then it said changing it to the hottest temperature, and then it turned it on high for some reason.
Yes. Yeah, we saw you did it twice. I could see. It says change the temperature to 68 degrees. It read that. And then it said, cool, I'm gonna set your shit to the hottest temperature. What? So you got the prompt.
I know.
Just didn't execute.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if that's just like a software thing. Like maybe there's a better updated software that potentially fixes some of that things. But that was just like the intrusiveness of the safety features. Like the lack of buttons almost just made it like, I mean, it made every single time I was behind the wheel, there was some inconvenience that I had because one of those two things. And I don't know if over time, do you eventually get used to that? And I wouldn't be complaining, but...
Or is the phone app any better?
Yeah.
To like work the key? Because yeah, the UI with all the buttonlessness and the key was really my biggest like... It made what should be an enjoyable experience like feel like, ugh, kind of cumbersome.
Well, and then I think like the last thing we should probably talk about before we wrap it up is the price point, because I think what they meant to do with this thing was deliver everything that you get here, you know, somewhat of a luxury vehicle with some decent bells and whistles for a good price point. I think between like 30 and 40K, but unfortunately, the way things are going, it's a lot more expensive than that now.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my little rant here. So Volvo originally debuted this a year, 2 years ago, whatever it was, and I was stoked. I was like, okay, this thing looks sick. It's gonna have dual motor with like 420 horsepower. It's gonna rip. It's gonna be affordable. It was gonna start at 35 grand is what they said. So you imagine, okay, maybe it's 5 more grand for like the dual motor. So let's say 40 grand for like the absolute ripper. It looks the business. I'm cool with that at that price point. Now, it's been tariffed out of existence because now it's knocking on the door of $50,000. And like, it's just not, like you can get Ioniq 5s, you can get like a bigger, more practical thing that's still pretty quick. Like you can get something that's like one of the best EVs out there for this money. It's not Volvo's fault. I wanted to like this thing so much, but, and this is the whole thing. They did this for a reason. They went with this whole buttonless layout for a reason. It saves cost, so they could deliver it at the price point. And then they had the rug pulled out from under them.
Right.
So like, I feel for Volvo because this thing would have been epic at 10 grand less money.
Yeah.
And I would have recommended it all day if it was 10,000 less dollars. It's not their fault.
At that price point, you can look past a lot of the things that we're mentioning.
Yes.
But because
100%.
of where it's at now, it makes it a harder sell.
Yes. So with that,
this was a lot better than the first one.
This was a lot. I'm glad we reshot this. This felt a lot better. So with that, I think thank you to Volvo for letting us have a go in your EX30. I'm sorry that the pricing had to be what it had to be. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.